Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life Transformation Radio. I'm your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and international best-selling author, Sean Douglas. Life Transformation Radio is heard in over 90 countries. So whether it's your first time joining us or you've been listening to us for some time, I want to thank you to those who are listening from around the world. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here is where we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing, highlighting that transformational moment that changed our lives and how we use it to then transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network, Tuesday through Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also join our Facebook group at Life Transformation Radio Community and never miss an episode by subscribing where you listen to podcasts. Life Transformation Radio can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Pandora, right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network by going to blogtalkradio.com/transformation radio. Go ahead and join us live. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel by searching Life Transformation Radio on YouTube. On the show, my guests are entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, coaches, podcasters, authors, and other amazing human beings having an impact in the world around them. And my guest today has done exactly that. If you have any questions for any of the guests that I bring on the show during our live broadcast, Tuesday through Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, go ahead and give us a call at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. And with that, please help me welcome to the show my guest for today, Robert Miller. Robert, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Thank you, Sean. So happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you on the show. I've had a couple of, mostly the shows are, podcasters or business owners, but some of my highest rated episodes have been, just regular people, not, creating $1 million businesses, but just following a dream. And I feel like that resonates a lot with this audience who really want to transform their life, especially in 2021 after the year that we've all had. So I'm excited, man. I'm really excited to have you on the show today.
Well, that's very cool. And you're right. I think the year 2020 has caused a lot of people to focus on their life and whether they're happy and satisfied or not. And that's something that I think we're going to talk about today.
Oh, absolutely. 100% agree. So the title of this episode is It's Never Too Late to Follow Your Dream with musician Robert Miller. Robert Miller was a part-time musician for most of his life who dreamed of playing music full-time and becoming a rock star. But life intruded, family, kids, work, and as he got older, he found his dream was slipping away. Finally, however, when he was in his 60s and his life was more settled, he decided it was now or never. He quit everything and jumped into music full-time, a field dominated by much younger artists. He started a band called Project Grand Slam, began writing, recording, and performing his music, working his way up from opening act to headliner, and in the process, achieved his dream. His success is totally against the grain of the industry, but shows that anything is possible. Today, Robert has a free gift for his audience. You can click on that hyperlinked word gift. Robert's free gift is to go to that link right there, click on East Side Sessions, and then use the the promo code DREAM at checkout, and you will get his newest album for free. It's called East Side Sessions. Use the link right there. It says Robert's free gift, and you get his album for free. Go to Project Grand Slam, hyperlinked right there in the show notes. Go to the store, or you can go on Facebook. Click on Facebook. It'll take you right to the Facebook page. Go ahead and like that, share it out, and kind of check out what Robert's doing. So, Robert, the first question that I have to ask, and I believe is the most important question that we could ever ask ourselves, is why? So for you, why do you do what you do?
Well, Sean, I feel that everybody starts out life with a dream. Particularly, when we're younger, when we're teenagers, let's say, we've all got dreams, and most of the dreams are pretty big at that time. I mean, I don't think there's too many teenagers that dream about becoming an accountant, for example. What they dream about is, becoming a nuclear scientist or an astronaut or a baseball player. These are big dreams, and they're great dreams. And as we get older in life, sometimes those dreams just come out of reach. Life gets in the way. That's certainly what happened to me. But there was always a burning desire within me to play music and to do it full time. I missed out on it when I was in my 20s, which is when basically all the rock stars started out and went into it and got lucky and got famous. And the question that I had for me was, well, was I just going to regret this for the rest of my life, or was I finally going to do something about it? And I played music all my life. It's not like I gave it up completely, but it was more like a hobby or an avocation, because I had all the things that people have in their lives. I was married, I had children, I had a job, I had a mortgage, I had responsibilities. How could I possibly just chuck everything and, follow my dream? But that's the funny thing about dreams. They stay with you and they urge you on. And finally, when I got to be in my early 60s, I kind of said to myself, okay, if I'm ever going to do it, what am I waiting for? How much longer do I have? And that was my moment to say, okay, I'm just going to go for it. And in my opinion, just the act of going for it, whatever your dream is, mine happened to be in the arts, but there's so many dreams. It could be writing a book, starting a podcast, starting a business. There's all different types of dreams. And just the fact that you try is what gives you the inner satisfaction that perhaps you didn't have before. So I'm a big, big advocate of people going for their dreams.
What made you choose music? I know you were a part-time musician. It's just something you picked up as a kid, or, kind of what was that moment that you said, I want to play, an instrument, and I want to be in a band? And what kind of made you get on that journey?
Well, I was kind of bred for music. My father was a part-time musician. He played the trumpet, at weddings and things like that. And when I was born, my father told me later that he said he named me Robert Miller because he thought it was a good name for a band leader. So I think that to a certain extent, my future path was laid out for me. When I was about 6 or 7, my parents started me on piano, which is a great instrument to start on. But, when you're 6 or 7 years old, the last thing you want to do is practice. You want to be outside. You want to play ball and do things like that. So they said, okay, you can quit piano, but you have to play another instrument. And so I picked the trumpet because that was the one that my father played. And you know what? I played trumpet throughout junior high and high school, and I enjoyed it. But there was a certain moment that some of your audience will remember, and that was in 1964 when this little group from Liverpool, England came out called the Beatles, and we all watched them on Ed Sullivan, and suddenly it was not very cool any longer to play the trumpet. Everybody wanted to play guitar, And so I went out the next day practically and bought myself a guitar. Then I switched and I learned how to play the bass, which has become my principal instrument. And from there, I just kept playing, in different bands and things throughout my teenage years, thinking that I was going to be a musician. That was it. That was going to be my life. And as I said, things didn't quite go in that direction.
So I used to play clarinet in high school, and I started in elementary school, went through middle school, and then when I got into high school, everybody's like, "Oh, what a band nerd! Like, you're a band nerd." So I quit in like my sophomore year and dedicated to football. I played hockey my whole life, so in the winter I would play hockey. In the fall for marching band and things, in regular band, I was, for school, I was, playing that stuff. I was playing baseball in the spring. So I learned how to read music. I learned how to play and all that. As a bass guitarist, do you guys read music? Like, because I don't know how it works. I mean, I know regular classical instruments, you have sheet music and, you play the notes and then boom, you're good. Is there sheet music for bass guitar or regular guitar, or how's that work if someone wants to maybe learn?
Yeah, there's sheet music for everything. The funny thing is, when I first started playing, I had this little band of sorts. I mean, we're all, 12, 13 years old. Nobody had an electric guitar. What we had was these acoustic guitars, and it turned out that a couple of us had these little Norelco reel-to-reel tape recorders. Okay, and they all came with a little microphone. So we would literally scotch tape the microphone to the body of the guitar, which would allow us to say that we now had an electric guitar, okay, even though it really wasn't. And then we found out that, okay, all these bands, they had regular guitar players, but they also had this animal called a bass guitar player. And because I played the trumpet, I already knew treble clef, which is the most important clef for a guitar player. So I volunteered to learn the bass clef. That's the whole reason how I became a bass player. And I love playing bass because anybody that's really into music knows that it's the bass and the drums, the rhythm section, that basically drives the band and sets the tone for everything. So it's been a great experience for me. And I played rock and roll only up until I was about 19 or 20 years old. And then, just as luck would have it, I took a music course over the summer, and part of the music course was to set you up with a teacher. And the guy that they set me up with on the bass happened to be John Coltrane's ex-bass player. John Coltrane was one of the greatest, jazz saxophonists of all time.
Yeah.
And his bass player was an amazing bass player, and he taught me so much, and including how to play jazz bass. And it was from there that I kind of went forth and multiplied, so to speak.
Wow, how cool is that, man? Doors just started opening for you. That's amazing.
Well, it was very, very cool. But again, here I was. This was the early 70s. The middle 70s, I'm playing music full time. I had also graduated college. I went and I was working in a public television station in the mailroom because that's how you got into television at that time. And I was a television major when I was in college. So here I was in the mailroom during the day, and I'm playing music in all the clubs. I was in Boston at the time. So I'm playing music at night. I'm doing the mailroom during the day. Maybe I made $100 a week between the two jobs. Wow. It was not. Well, that's the life of a musician or an actor. Who does the waiting at all the tables in the restaurants? It's all the out of work actors, right? So you have to really be willing to stick with it when you're in the arts. It's the top 0.1% maybe that make a living at it, and everybody else struggles. And you either have that burning desire inside of you that won't leave no matter what, or you don't. And if you don't, you leave it. Mm-hmm. I always had that desire, but again, then stuff happens. That's part of life.
Right. So the show is all about our transformational moments. And I believe that we have quite a few. But in your case, what would be a transformational moment that happened to you, changed you, and put you on the path to what you're doing today?
Well, I really had two such moments. The first one came in the year 2000, so just about 20 years to the day. I was out riding my bicycle in New York City, and I got hit by a car. And I wound up with a broken neck. And it was touch and go as to whether I was going to be paralyzed or dead or whatever. But, I came through it, obviously. And that was a big wake-up call because I said, somebody's given me a new lease on life. What am I going to do with it? And that started me on the path that I've been on for the last 5-6 years. And the second moment that happened that put me on that path was when I turned 60. And as I said before, 60 doesn't sound that old nowadays. At one time, that was really old. But nonetheless, you're on the far side of the curve when you're at 60. And I said, okay, if I don't do it now, again, when am I going to do this? And you never want to look back in your life at any time, and say, gee, why didn't I take a shot? Why didn't I try? And in particular, I said to myself, I've been given this new lease on life that I've now had for quite a while, and I want to do something that'll make me feel good about it. And, in life, Sean, there's so many things that people do, and they just fall into stuff, and they don't really aim for it. It just happens. And a lot of times we're not very happy with where we are in life and what's going on in our life. And it's at those times that I think you just have to kind of recognize where you're at and say, all right, I've got the ability to choose. I've got the wherewithal to do something about it. I'm going to do it. And, from my point of view, I came up with a little acronym that I call DREAM in order to try and kind of orient people that they can do exactly what I did at any age. May I go through that with you and your audience?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So just to use a word, I wanted to have something that people could relate to. So DREAM, the D obviously stands for you have to have a dream. And I really believe everybody's got one, even if you don't realize it, even if you've forgotten about it. I think if you get in touch with your gut, we feel and we think, if you will, with our gut. You get in touch with your gut, you're going to know what your dream is. The R is realistic. The dream has to be realistic. I mean, if my dream when I was 60 was that I was going to become a Major League Baseball player, unless I was Satchel Paige, that was not going to happen. Right. So the dream has to be realistic. And that's okay because most dreams are realistic, and you can size them as well and you can scope them out so you can make your dream realistic. E to me is the most important part of the whole thing. It's execute. You need an action plan. It's not enough to just say, gee, I'd like to do something. You have to say, well, okay, now I want to do something. What are the baby steps that I need to take in order to do it? You don't have to have it all figured out, but you have to know what's my first step? What's my second step? How do I want to start on this path? And again, the dream could be a new hobby, a new business, a store. It can be anything, but have a plan of action. And A is for the word adjust, because in my view, and certainly in my experience, there's no plan that works perfectly. Okay, in music, for example, it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps sideways. That's just the way life takes you. I like this saying or quote that Mike Tyson, the ex-heavyweight champion, used to use. He would say, when people asked him, did you have a plan going into the fight? He would say, everyone's got a plan until they get hit in the face.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So you have to be willing to adjust your plan. And finally, M is for measure. You have to be able to measure your success. music, it's kind of easy. You know that you can create an album, you can have sales, you can play concerts. These are the indications of success. But every dream has got its own indications of success. And again, it doesn't really spoil things if your dream doesn't work out, because there's no guarantee that your dream is going to happen. But the mere act of saying, okay, I tried, I took the step, I went after it, I'm guaranteeing that you're going to get a level of joy and satisfaction that you probably have never had before, because you're now following the path that you wanted to be on all along.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that, they get out of the military or they get a job for 20 years and they want to do something else. I've always really wanted to do this. Like, do it. Like, do it anyways. Like, oh, no, I'm a little, maybe a little older, or I don't have a lot of money, or, whatever excuse, that they come up with. And I love your process, your dream process. Break it down each letter as every step that you need to take. And you'd mentioned something like, just do it. Like it doesn't matter. Take action, which I believe is the most important action we can take. But just believing in ourselves that we can still do this.
Again, if you don't take the first step, you're never going to find out whether you've got it in you and whether it can work for you. And you're right that people are afraid. People talk themselves out of it. They use 100 excuses. I can't do it. I won't do it. It's too expensive. I can't give up. My wife won't like it. My husband won't like it. Blah, 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 blah. There's always an excuse. And look, there is going to be plenty of people that just won't do it because that's human nature. But in your audience, I am sure, because of the nature of your show, that there are people out there that say, you know what, he's right. I do have a dream. And I just never did it for whatever reason. Doesn't make a difference what that reason is. And it doesn't make a difference what age you're at. You could be in your 20s, in your 40s, in your 60s like me. It doesn't make a difference. Take your shot. That's the message here.
Yep. Take
your shot. Because that alone is going to make you feel a whole lot different and better.
Yep. Oh, I 100% agree. Yeah, man, you got to start. And I got a friend of mine named Chris Krimitzos, and he wrote a book called Start Ugly. Everybody wants to start perfectly. You started at zero. Bass guitar, brand new. Started at zero. You didn't pick up the guitar and could play every famous rock song there was. You had to learn them. So just start. That's the message, man. Just start. Just take steps. Everybody starts at zero.
And you know what happened with me, Sean? I was trying to write music for a long time, and I had kind of a writer's block. This is before I started to do it as seriously and as full-time as I wound up doing. And once I made the decision to do this full-time, I did a few things that went along with it. First of all, I found bandmates that I felt would compliment me in what I was doing. I wanted to have myself surrounded by young, talented, energetic musicians, because I wanted that energy and that vibrancy to rub off on my music, because I was the composer and the chief cook and bottle washer in the group. Excuse me, but I wanted to kind of drink in their youth and vibrancy. Very important to me, because music is a young person's game. And the only people my age that are out there still playing are the guys and the girls that made it when they were in their 20s. These legacy acts that have been around for 50 years. And I give more power to them. I mean, the Stones and Paul McCartney and Billy Joel and all these guys, they're fantastic musicians. They deserve everything. But, if you look at them, they all made it when they were around 20-ish or so. And That's the usual. So here I was jumping into a game where I was way, way out. I mean, talk about an outlier. I was gone. But I said it didn't make a difference to me, okay? I was going to play, as hip music as I could. I wasn't going to pander. I'm not doing the stuff that is not age appropriate, if you will. There's certain stuff that I like, and there are other things that in music that, just wouldn't work for me. So I had to find the right path for me. I had to surround myself with the right people, and then you start down the path. And believe me, the beginning of the path is not easy. The first gigs that you're playing, it's you and the band and the bartender, okay, or the waitress or something, and you have to have the intestinal fortitude to say, okay, I'm going to go forward. I'm going to do it no matter what. I'm going to give the best show that I can. I'm going to make that bartender or waitress feel like they just paid, $100 for a ticket. And as you get further and you go, you that becomes your ethic, your work ethic. The greatest moment for me, the moment that I knew that I had made it, so to speak, a couple of years ago, we played a festival in Serbia, of all places, Eastern Europe. And we had played another festival in Norway a day or two before. We flew 8 hours, 3 different flights to get to Serbia. We landed in a neighboring country called Kosovo, not knowing that there was a war going on between Kosovo and Serbia. Right. We landed midnight, and a van meets us at the airport, tells us that it's going to be an 8-hour van ride to get to the concert site. So, we've now been traveling, 16 hours. We get there, it's early morning. We're going on that evening. We're exhausted. And yet, when we go on the stage, there's 20,000 people in the audience. Most of them don't speak English.
Wow.
They certainly didn't know us or our music. But you know what? By the middle of the festival concert, we went on for about an hour. By 30 minutes, we had them. By the end of the hour, they were giving us a standing ovation. It was just such a wonderful, cool moment, and it showed how international music is.
No, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd like to learn piano or learn guitar or just something, right? I think that'd be a lot of fun. I just don't have a passion for it. I love listening to music. I love different types of music. But playing it it's not a passion like it is podcasting or speaking from stage or creating businesses, which I wasn't doing until 2016. And I had been doing it since I joined the military in 2001. 15 years later, I'm like, I'm going to do this. Now's the time. Now's a really good time to do this. And, 5 years later in 2021, we're thriving. We got 2 podcasts, and there's a lot of cool stuff that we've done in the last 5 years. And that couldn't have been possible unless I started.
Well, see how smart you were? You went into this field, this podcasting, online show field at its inception. So many people didn't know anything about it at the time. And, as you just described, look at the accomplishments you've had from TED Talks to books to 2 podcasts and shows. It's fantastic. You did it. That was your passion. And bravo to you.
Thank you. Thank you, man. It means a lot. It's been a great 4 years almost. February will be 4 years. We're in season 5 right now, so super cool, super fun. And I just got to have amazing conversations with guys like you that, I really wanted to do something. I transformed my life. I said, hell with it. I got to do it now. And then they took action, and they made it happen no matter what.
Hey, that's what we're talking about here. And, as I think I mentioned to you earlier, I'm being pushed into maybe considering doing a podcast of my own because I think that, my ability to articulate my dream and the dream scenario that people can follow. Others have said to me, gee, that's a great subject for a podcast. What do you think?
I think it's great. I think if you called it Project Grand Slam, you could talk about dreaming about that Grand Slam. And maybe people would make it a baseball reference. I don't know if Project Grand Slam, I don't know where it came from. Maybe that's a baseball reference. But
do you want to hear the story where it came from?
I would love to hear where Project Grand Slam came from.
Well, I used to have a band that I called the Robert Miller Group. Kind of a blah, everybody kind of does that type of thing.
Like most 70s bands did.
Yeah. When I was putting this band together, I said, I need a cool, different name. And, one of my favorite films of all time was a James Bond film called Goldfinger. Do you remember that film? This was the film where Goldfinger was out to rob Fort Knox, okay, where they keep all the gold. And the plot in the movie to rob Fort Knox was called Project Grand Slam. So I said, gee, that's a cool name for a band. And I named it Project Grand Slam. And then I watched the movie about 6 months later. And I got to the part where they talked about the plot. And guess what? I was totally wrong. I remembered it incorrectly. The plot to steal the gold was called Operation Grand Slam. But I had already named the band Project Grand Slam. So I said, okay, I got to think about this. And I went and I Googled Operation Grand Slam. And I found out that in addition to being the plot in the movie, it was also some kind of a genocidal plot in Africa that some crazy guy was trying to kill a whole bunch of people. And I said, I really don't think I want to name the band after a genocidal plot to kill people. So that's why I kept Project Grand Slam. But a lot of people have asked me, does it stand for, Grand Slam? Is it golf? Is it tennis? Is it baseball? And, I love all those sports, but that really had nothing to do with how I got the name.
Amazing. Kind of just stuck, kind of just fits. And I think it is a very cool name for a band. And I also think that we talk about, man, we hit a grand slam on that one, didn't we? You get your dream stage. Just say, I really want to speak at TEDx. And you got to swing for the fences on this one. This is a big dream. You got to swing for the fences. And then if you get it, you're like, we hit a grand slam. What do they say when you get off the field, you get off stage, you're like, man, that was fun. I was like, man, we knocked it out of the park, man.
Absolutely.
Oh, we knocked it out of the park. Right? So
yeah, you got it.
It makes sense, man.
It works in all
to me, it makes sense.
It works in all of these contexts. I was just telling you how I came up with the name, but you're right. Most people assume it's sports related, and I love the sports analogy. It works too. Yeah,
because again, whenever something amazing happens, we're like, man, we rocked it, right? We crushed it. We knocked it out of the park. And I think that'd be a great name for a podcast. I think it'd be a great name for a book, Project Grand Slam, talking about how to hit a grand slam in life, which I think has been probably done a million times, but not in the context of yours. Maybe, achieving the Grand Slam dream, or maybe your podcast is called Project Grand Slam, dreaming big or something like that, right? So how to dream big. You can have a subtitle for a podcast, how to dream big.
Okay, I like it. Ask your audience. Maybe they can help me name it too.
Yeah, I think of the audience. What's a great email address that they can email you some podcast names?
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, do Robert at projectgrandslam.com. Robert at projectgrandslam.com. I'd love to hear from your audience and be happy to not only chat with them, but maybe they've got a dream that they are thinking about, and maybe I can be helpful.
There you go. Love it. Yeah, they can email me at Sean, Sean, at the Success Core, CORPS, thesuccesscore.com. Go ahead and email me and let me know what's some great names for a podcast that maybe you're thinking about. What's a great name for Robert's podcast, who decided to stop everything, give up everything, and pursue his dream of being a rock star, being a musician, and then finally achieving it. Man, I'd love to see what kind of names people come up with. So as we start to close the show, what's your message for people when they hear you talk about stopping everything, dreaming, never giving up, and that it's never too late? What is your message for everyone listening?
Well, the message is, if I could do it at my age and in the business that I picked, it just shows that you really can achieve so much at any age and at any time in your life. Keep that in your mind always, okay? You're never without options and choices. And just think about the choices that I made, which were very difficult choices, really, but it all worked out. And I'm sure it can work out for your audience, too.
Love it. That is a really, really great message. So as we close the show, again, the free gift that Robert is giving away, you go to the gift link. Right there, it's hyperlinked, Robert's free gift. Click on Eastside Sessions. Use DREAM promo code at checkout and check out his newest album, Eastside Sessions. What kind of music do you guys play? I'm curious to know. What would you classify your genre of music?
Project Grand Slam is really a fusion of rock and jazz with a twist of Latin.
Wow. That's interesting.
And it's all original music. I do all the composing for the band. We've got an absolutely dynamic female singer. It's a 7-piece combination with keyboards and guitar, sax, drums, percussion, bass, obviously. We've played festivals and concerts all around the world. We've got 9 albums, including a Billboard #1, over 4 million video views, over 1 million Spotify streams, over 50,000 Facebook fans. And we've done openers, for example, for groups like Blues Traveler and Edgar Winter, Boney James. So the band is really hitting on all cylinders. And please go to the store. You've got a free album there, which is our latest album. It's gotten fantastic reviews. And obviously, you've got all the rest of our music and merchandise there as well. I hope you'll start to become familiar with the band. You can go to our website as well, which is projectgrandslam.com. And love to have you on the journey with us.
Amazing. Robert, thank you so much for coming on the show, for being an inspiration, and really teaching us that it is never really late in the game. There's always time. It's never too late, no matter what area of your life you're in, to achieve your dream, to start your dream, to start the journey. So I really appreciate that message.
Sean, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your show. This is an awesome show, and you're a terrific host.
Thank you so much. Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest impacting the world around him. If any part of our conversation with Robert Miller today inspired you, please click on the hyperlinks, Project Grand Slam, go to the store, click on Eastside Sessions, and use the Dream code at checkout to get his free new album, Eastside Sessions. Click on the Facebook link and send him a friend request. Send him a message letting him know that you listened to this episode of Life Transformation Radio. As I close the show, I always say, live your brand. Living your brand means to, deep down in your heart, those core values that you hold, living those out every day. Live out the core values that you hold deep in your heart. I call this living your brand. So until next time, live an amazing life. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform.